The prescription slip had been folded in my coat pocket for 3 days, edges softening from my fingers, worrying the paper every time I remembered it was there. Third refill this year. The pharmacist had handed it to me with that look, the one that says insurance issue again, and I'd smiled, said I'd take care of it, walked out before the conversation could go anywhere expensive. Now I was sitting in Dr. Patel's waiting room, fluorescent lights humming that specific frequency that makes your teeth ache, vinyl chairs squeaking every time someone shifted weight. The air smelled like antiseptic and the faint coffee burn from the office pot that had been on since 6 a.m. I kept my hands in my pockets, felt the prescription slip, counted the ceiling tiles, 18 across. Anxiety math, better than the other kind I'd been doing lately. My phone buzzed. Marcus, can we talk tonight? I stared at those 4 words longer than they deserved. In 2 years together, I'd learned that "can we talk" was never about what movie to watch or where to get dinner. It was the preface to something heavier, delivered via text so you had time to prepare your face before the actual conversation. I typed back, sure, sent it before I could overthink, and pocketed the phone. The tightness started in my chest, familiar, manageable, the thing the pills in question were supposed to prevent. I breathed through it. 4 counts in, 7 counts hold, 8 counts out. Dr. Patel's instructions from our first appointment 3 years ago, back when panic attacks felt like dying, and I didn't know you could teach your nervous system better habits. The medical assistant called my name. I followed her back, got weighed, got my blood pressure taken, slightly elevated, always was in medical settings, answered the same questions about smoking and drinking and suicidal ideation. No, no, and no. She typed it all in, said the doctor would be right in, closed the door. I sat on the exam table, paper crinkling, and pulled out my phone again. Marcus hadn't replied to my sure. He was probably working, or pretending to work, which had been the situation for the last 3 months. Freelance graphic design, he'd said, had its dry spells. This one was more like a drought. Dr. Patel knocked once and entered, already smiling. She was the kind of doctor who made eye contact, who remembered that you'd mentioned your sister's wedding last visit, who didn't make you feel like a billing code. "How are we doing?" she asked, rolling her stool over. "Fine," I said automatically, then corrected myself. "Actually, I need to talk about the prescription." Her smile shifted into something more focused. "Insurance trouble again?" "Something like that." I pulled the slip from my pocket, unfolded it. "I lost my coverage in January. I've been managing, but I need to figure out something more sustainable." She didn't ask why I'd waited 4 months to mention this. Just nodded, pulled up my chart on her computer. "You have about a week left on your current supply?" 12 days. "Okay." She clicked through screens, frowned. "I can write you samples to buy us some time, 3 weeks worth, and I'll start the process for manufacturer assistance. That usually takes 6 to 8 weeks, but sometimes we get lucky." 6 to 8 weeks. My pills cost $240 out of pocket. I had $17 in checking after rent cleared. The math didn't math, but I just nodded, said thank you, took the samples she pulled from the cabinet in the corner. 3 white boxes with the drug name in blue letters, the kind of professional packaging that makes you feel like you're in capable hands, even when you're not. "We'll figure this out," Dr. Patel said, and I believed her in the moment, in the room with the diplomas on the wall and the anatomical heart model on the shelf. Walking out to my car, belief got harder. Marcus's truck was in my apartment lot when I got home. He had a key, and had since month 6, that relationship milestone that feels romantic until it becomes a logistical question. I found him in my kitchen, pulling ingredients from grocery bags. Pasta, the fresh kind from the Italian market, cherry tomatoes, basil, the good Parmesan. He looked up when I walked in, smiled that smile that used to make me forget whatever I'd been worried about. "Thought I'd make dinner," he said. "You didn't have to do that." "I wanted to." He rinsed the basil, shook off the water. "Plus, we should talk." There it was. The other shoe dropping right on schedule. I set my bag down, put the sample boxes in the cabinet next to the half-empty current prescription bottle, and started helping. Cutting tomatoes, filling the pot with water, normal domestic choreography, while we both pretended we didn't know what was coming. Dinner was good. Marcus could cook. It was one of the things I'd loved about him early on, the way he'd show up with ingredients and turn my sad kitchen into something warm. We ate at my small table, the one that wobbled unless you folded a napkin under the short leg, and made conversation about nothing. His friend's new dog. The weird weather. My boss's latest editorial obsession. The words filled space while the real conversation waited. He pushed food around his plate, took a breath. So, I need to talk to you about something. I set my fork down, folded my hands. Ready position. I know I've been covering your prescriptions, he started, and my stomach dropped before he even finished. And I want to keep helping. But my work situation is really bad right now. Like, I'm behind on my rent and I picked up that emergency project, but it fell through. And I can't keep doing it. Not right now. The words came out apologetic, rehearsed, true. He looked miserable saying them. I nodded slowly, doing the mental math I'd been avoiding. 8 months. He'd been paying for my meds for 8 months, since January when my insurance lapsed, and I'd been too paralyzed by paperwork and phone trees to fix it immediately. $240 a month. Sometimes I Venmo'd him back. Weeks late, partial payments, whatever I could scrape together, but it was never the full amount, and we both knew it. I understand, I said, because what else could I say? He was telling the truth about his limits, and you can't argue with someone's empty bank account. I'm really sorry. He reached across the table, took my hand. His palm was warm, slightly damp. I feel like shit about this. Don't. You've been really generous. The words felt wooden coming out, script from some play about gracious acceptance. I'll figure something out. Maybe in a few weeks if this new client comes through. It's fine, really. I squeezed his hand, let go, stood up. I'm just going to use the bathroom. I closed the door, sat on the toilet lid with my jeans still on, and counted to 60. Then I counted to 60 again. My chest felt tight but not panicked, which was something. I looked at the cabinet where I'd put the samples, did the math. 3 weeks of samples. 6 to 8 weeks for assistance approval, maybe. 12 days of current meds, some overlap, some gaps. I could stretch them, take one every other day instead of daily, but Dr. Patel had been clear that consistency mattered with this particular medication. Inconsistent dosing meant breakthrough anxiety, meant the possibility of panic attacks that left me shaking and dissociated for hours afterward. $17 in checking, $63 in savings that I'd been growing for a year, $1 here, $5 there. The account I pretended was for emergencies but was really just proof I could save something. $240 per refill. The math still didn't math. I washed my hands, looked at myself in the mirror. I looked fine. Hair needed a trim, circles under my eyes, but fine. Normal, like someone whose life wasn't reorganizing itself around pharmaceutical math. Back at the table, Marcus was talking. Something about maybe picking up delivery shifts, about a friend who'd mentioned a project, about how this was temporary. His voice had that quality of trailing off, like he was already somewhere else. I made listening sounds, started clearing plates. He didn't stop me, didn't offer to help. I should probably head out, he said, checking his phone. I'm exhausted. Okay. He kissed me at the door, forehead then lips, and I let him. It felt like something we were supposed to do, so we did it. After he left, I stood at the sink, washing the same fork 3 times, the water too hot, replaying every time I'd said thanks when he picked up my prescription. Every time I texted him the pharmacy name and pickup time like it was our routine, like it was sustainable. He'd offered, that was true. I'd never asked. But I'd let him, and somewhere in the letting it became expected, became infrastructure, became something I built my month around. The fork was very clean. I set it in the drying rack, turned off the water, looked at my reflection in the dark window. Behind my face, my small apartment. Evidence of living, books stacked on the coffee table, a sweater draped over a chair, the sample boxes visible through the kitchen cabinet's glass door. Small life, small problems, small math that wouldn't add up. Morning came with light through my cheap blinds, striping the bed in a way that would have been poetic if I wasn't already awake. I'd been up since 5, phone in hand, scrolling through my bank app like the numbers would change if I refreshed enough. They didn't. I had $17 until Friday. Rent was paid, utilities were auto-draft, but everything else, groceries, gas, the $60 copay for Dr. Patel that I still owed from February, existed in a careful balance I'd just watched tip. I called the pharmacy at 8 as soon as they opened. The technician sounded tired already, and I matched her energy. Professional exhaustion, both of us. I'm calling about payment options for a prescription, I said. Like a payment plan or... We don't do payment plans. She said it kindly but firmly, the voice of someone who has this conversation 10 times a day. You could try applying for manufacturer assistance, or sometimes GoodRx has coupons that bring the cost down. How much down? Depends on the medication, usually 10 to 40%. 10 to 40% of $240 was still more than I had. What about manufacturer assistance? You apply on their website, takes 6 to 8 weeks typically. 6 to 8 weeks. Same timeline Dr. Patel had mentioned. I thanked her, hung up, pulled up GoodRx on my phone, entered the medication name, dosage, quantity. The coupon brought it down to $187. Better, but not better enough. Might as well have been $1,000. I texted my sister, just, need to talk. She called immediately. Lena always called. She didn't trust text for anything real. What's wrong? Nothing's wrong. I need some advice about money stuff. What kind of money stuff? Her voice had that edge already, the one that said she was mentally pulling up her list of my bad decisions, her solutions, her opinions about Marcus. Just budgeting. Things are tight right now. How tight? I didn't answer right away. Through the phone, I could hear her moving around her kitchen. Lena lived in a condo downtown, had a real job with benefits and a 401k, was objectively more functional than me in every measurable way. She'd offered to help me apply for insurance back in January. I'd said I'd handle it. That had gone well. Are you eating? She asked, which was Lena's way of asking if I was okay without saying the words. Yes, I'm fine. I just need to make some adjustments. Do you need money? No. The answer came fast, automatic. I just wanted to talk through some options. What options? You either need money or you don't. I don't. I stood up, paced my small bedroom. I'm figuring it out. Is this about Marcus? Did something happen? No, everything's fine with Marcus. Because you know my thoughts on, I know your thoughts. Everyone knew Lena's thoughts. She'd made them clear at month 3 of my relationship, at month 6 at every family gathering since. Marcus was directionless. I was enabling him. We were codependent. She wasn't wrong, but she also wasn't helpful. I should go. I have to get ready for work. If you need money, I don't. Thanks, though. I hung up before she could push harder, before I could break down and tell her everything and accept the loan that would come with a dozen small humiliations disguised as sisterly concern. Work was the small press where I'd been a copy editor for 3 years, the kind of place that published poetry chapbooks and essay collections you'd find in independent bookstores, staffed by people who cared too much and were paid too little. I loved it in the way you love things that don't love you back. My desk was in the corner by the window, stacked with manuscripts in various stages, sticky notes in my own handwriting, marking continuity errors and fact checks and queries for authors. My boss, Diane, stopped by mid-morning with coffee and bad news. Quick heads up, she said, setting the mug on my desk. Board meeting yesterday. They're implementing budget cuts. I looked up from the manuscript I'd been marking. What kind of cuts? No layoffs, but raises are frozen through the end of the year, and we're cutting back on freelance budgets. Okay. I kept my voice level. I'd been hoping for a raise. Hoping wasn't a plan, but it had been something. I'm sorry, I pushed back, but you know how it is. She squeezed my shoulder, moved on to deliver the same news to the next desk. I sat there doing the math again. My salary was $32,000 a year. I'd been with the company for 3 years. A raise would have been maybe 3% if I was lucky. $96 a month, pre-tax. Not enough to matter, except now it mattered. Lunch break, I sat in my car in the parking lot and Googled how to afford prescriptions without insurance. The results were a mix of discount programs, telehealth services, Canadian pharmacies, and Reddit threads from people rationing their medications or skipping doses. One thread was titled How I Survived Without My Antidepressants for 6 months. The comments were full of warnings and horror stories and well-meaning advice that boiled down to, you don't. I opened a new tab, searched for county assistance programs, found a form that was 12 pages long, required proof of income and residency and medical necessity, processing time 4 to 6 weeks. Printed it on the office printer when no one was looking, folded it into my bag. The afternoon crawled. I copy-edited a memoir about inherited trauma and resilience, marking comma splices and fact-checking, dates while my own life felt like a rough draft I couldn't revise my way out of. At 4, I told Diane I had a doctor's appointment, left early, drove back to Dr. Patel's clinic without calling ahead. The receptionist looked up when I walked in. Do you have an appointment? No, but I was hoping to talk to Dr. Patel for just a minute about the prescription situation from this morning. She checked the schedule, frowned. We're pretty booked, but let me see. She disappeared into the back, returned a minute later. She can give you 5 minutes between patients. I waited, watched the same people in the same chairs, fluorescent lights still humming. A kid coughing into his mother's shoulder. An elderly man reading a magazine from 2 years ago. The ecosystem of the unwell, all of us just trying to maintain. Dr. Patel waved me back into an exam room, didn't sit down. She had that harried look of someone running behind schedule. What's going on? I explained fast. The insurance lapse, the cost, the lack of coverage, the boyfriend who couldn't help anymore, the math that didn't work. I kept my voice steady, clinical, like I was editing someone else's story. She listened, nodded, pulled open the cabinet. I can give you more samples, 3 weeks' worth. She stacked boxes, counted them. I'll also start the override process with your old insurance. Sometimes they'll cover it retroactively if we can prove medical necessity. And there's a county program that does sliding scale. Have you applied? I got the form today. Fill it out tonight. Bring it in tomorrow. I'll sign the medical necessity portion. She handed me the samples, looked at me directly. This isn't sustainable long term. You know that. We need to get you actual coverage. I know. I mean it. Don't skip doses trying to stretch them. That's more dangerous than you think. I promised I wouldn't. Walked out with the samples held against my chest like they might escape. In my car, I counted them. 3 weeks exactly if I took them as prescribed. 21 days. The calendar math scrolled through my head. 21 days of samples starting now. 6 to 8 weeks for manufacturer assistance, maybe. 4 to 6 weeks for county program processing, maybe. Gaps everywhere, optimism required. My phone buzzed. Marcus, how was your day? I stared at the text, wanted to reply with the truth. Apocalyptic, thanks for asking. Instead I typed, fine. Busy. Talk later? He sent back a thumbs up. I pocketed my phone, pulled out of the clinic lot, drove home through traffic that moved like sludge. Everyone was going somewhere, had somewhere to be, was managing their own complicated math. I wondered how many of them were one financial surprise away from crisis. Probably more than admitted it. We were all very good at looking fine. At home I made dinner. Rice and eggs and whatever vegetables I could find in the crisper drawer. Ate standing at the counter, looking at the county assistance form. Spread across my kitchen table, 12 pages. Income verification, residency proof, medical history, references. The architecture of need documented. I sat down, started filling it out. Worked through dinner, through sunset, through the point where my hand cramped from writing. Finished at 10:30, pages filled in my careful handwriting, every box checked, every line answered. Proof that I qualified for help, evidence of not quite making it. Marcus showed up Thursday night without texting first. I heard his key in the lock, looked up from my laptop where I'd been refreshing my bank account, still $17, Friday still a day away, and felt that specific tiredness of someone who doesn't want company but won't say so. He came in carrying bags from Thai Smile, the good place 2 neighborhoods over. Thought we could use a nice dinner, he said, already unpacking containers on my counter. Pad see ew, spring rolls, mango sticky rice. My favorites, the ones I hadn't ordered in months because they cost too much to justify. You didn't have to do that, I said, closing my laptop. I wanted to. He smiled, that sheepish expression that meant he felt guilty about something. The prescription thing, probably. The conversation we'd had that he thought was finished, but I was still living inside. We sat at my table, the wobble fixed with the same folded napkin, and ate with forks because I'd never bought chopsticks. The food was good. That specific comfort of familiar flavors. Nostalgia wrapped in takeout. Marcus asked about work, and I told him about the budget cuts, the frozen raises. He made sympathetic sounds, said something about corporate greed, and I nodded along while doing different math. The receipt was on the counter. I could see it from where I sat. $43 for 1 meal. Enough to buy groceries for a week if you were careful. Almost a quarter of what I needed for my prescription. The irony wasn't subtle. So I wanted to talk about us, Marcus said, setting down his fork. About what I said the other day. Okay. I feel really bad about the prescription thing. I know that puts you in a tough spot. It's fine. I told you I understand. I just want you to know it's not because I don't care. I'm just, I'm in a really bad place financially right now and I'm trying to dig myself out and I can't. He stopped, regrouped. I can't take care of you the way I want to right now. I looked at him. Really looked. He was tired, I could see that. The kind of tired that comes from trying and failing, from being 32 and still figuring out what comes next, from feeling like you should be further along than you are. I understood that intimately, but I also understood suddenly that we were having two different conversations. Do you think the prescription thing is about our relationship? I asked. He blinked. Isn't it? It's about my medication, about me being able to afford something I need to function. I know, but he reached for my hand across the table. It's also about us, about me being able to support you, to be the kind of partner who... I never asked you to support me. The words came out sharper than I meant them. I know, but I offered and I wanted to, and now I can't, and I feel like shit about it. His thumb rubbed across my knuckles, that absent gesture of affection. I just need you to know this is temporary. Once I get back on my feet, I want to help again. I pulled my hand back gently. Can I ask you something? Of course. Why did you start paying for my prescriptions? He looked confused. Because you needed help. Because your insurance was screwed up and you were stressed about it. But why you? Why did it become your responsibility? It wasn't a responsibility. It was something I wanted to do. Okay, but did you want to do it because it was helpful or because it made you feel needed? The question landed wrong. I could see it in his face. He leaned back, folded his arms. What does that mean? I'm trying to understand the dynamic. Because from my side, it started as this generous thing you offered, and then it became this routine, and then it became something I relied on without realizing it. And now it's gone, and I'm trying to figure out what I actually built my life around. I was just trying to help. I know. I did know. That was the hard part. But help and dependence aren't the same thing, and I think we accidentally created the second one. He was quiet for a while, processing. I could see him trying to figure out if he'd done something wrong, if I was mad, if this was a fight. It wasn't. It was worse. It was clarity arriving late after the structure was already built. Are you breaking up with me? He asked finally. I don't know. The honesty felt mean, but the alternative was lying. I'm trying to figure out what I need right now, and I think part of that is figuring out how to take care of myself without waiting for someone else to do it. I don't understand. I thought we were partners. We are. Maybe. But somewhere along the way, I outsourced part of my survival to you, and that's not fair to either of us. He stood up, started pacing my small kitchen. So what? You just want to do everything alone? That's not how relationships work. I want to do my essential things myself, the things I need to live, and then build a relationship on top of that, not instead of that. That sounds like a therapy script. Maybe it is. I'd been seeing Dr. Patel for 3 years, had learned all about attachment and independence and the difference between healthy interdependence and the kind of neediness that erodes you from inside. But it's still true. He stopped pacing, looked at me. So what happens now? I need space to figure out the prescription thing myself, to set up my own systems, to stop feeling like I'm borrowing my own stability. And us? I don't know yet. The words hurt to say, but they were true. I care about you, but I think I need to prove to myself that I can exist without you before I can figure out if I want to exist with you. He grabbed his keys from the counter, the movement sharp. This is really unfair, you know that? I'm trying my best here. I know you are. This isn't about you being bad or wrong. It's about me needing to be functional on my own terms. He left without saying goodbye, the door closing hard but not slamming. I sat at the table with the Thai food containers, still half full, and felt the specific emptiness of having told the truth and lost something in the exchange. The apartment was very quiet. I cleaned up, put the leftovers in my fridge, threw away the receipt without looking at it again. My laptop was still on the couch. I opened it, pulled up the document I'd been avoiding, my budget spreadsheet, color-coded and detailed, months of careful tracking. I added a new column, essential versus optional. Essential, rent, utilities, medication, minimum groceries, gas for work. Optional, everything else. The optional column was already empty. I'd been living essential only for months without admitting it. I opened a new document, titled it Prescription Plan. Started listing options. County Assistance Program, 4 to 6 weeks maybe. Manufacturer Assistance, 6 to 8 weeks maybe. Good RX coupon, a 187, still too much. Stretch samples by taking every other day, dangerous per Dr. Patel. Pick up extra work, doing what, where, when? None of them were solutions. All of them were maybes and almosts and not quite enoughs. But they were my maybes, my work to do, my problem to solve. That had to count for something. I opened my email, found the draft folder I rarely looked at. There was a message there I'd been writing to myself for months, started after a particularly bad panic attack, continued in pieces during moments of clarity. Subject line: things I would do if I weren't afraid. The list: apply for jobs with better pay and real benefits. Ask Diane for a raise even though I know the answer. Tell Marcus when I'm not okay instead of pretending. Stop saying yes when I mean no. Stop saying it's fine when it's not fine. Learn to ask for help without feeling like I'm failing. Figure out what I need versus what I've been told I should want. Stop outsourcing my survival. I read it twice, added one more line. Stop waiting for someone to save me and save myself instead. Saved the draft, closed my laptop, sat in the quiet of my apartment with the sample boxes in the cabinet and the county form ready for Dr. Patel's signature and $12 in checking and Friday a few hours away. Small life, big problems, math that still didn't add up. But for the first time in months, I felt like I was facing the right direction. Not toward easy, not toward fixed, but toward mine. My phone buzzed. Marcus. I love you. I hope you know that. I read it 3 times, typed and deleted 4 different responses, settled on, I know, I love you too. But love isn't the problem. Sent it before I could revise. Turned off my phone, went to bed in the dark, listening to my heartbeat steady and slow, counting breaths instead of dollars, falling asleep to the sound of my own survival. Not borrowed, not given, just mine. For now, that would have to be enough. Morning arrived in stages. First the gray pre-dawn light that made everything look unfinished, then the actual sunrise that I watched from my bed because I'd been awake since 4:30. My phone was still off from last night. I'd plugged it in but left it dark, and now it sat on my nightstand like a question I wasn't ready to answer. 3 texts from Marcus, probably. Maybe more. The pull to check was strong, muscle memory from 2 years of good morning messages and throughout the day check-ins. I left it off. Turned away. Got up. Friday. Payday. The direct deposit would hit around 6 a.m., which meant I checked the clock, 42 minutes until I could afford to exist again. I made coffee with the last of the grounds, added too much milk to stretch it, stood at my kitchen window watching my neighbor load her car for work. She was a nurse, I thought, or maybe a teacher. Someone with a real job that came with real benefits. I wondered if she ever stood at her own window doing pharmaceutical math, or if that was just me. 6:03. I turned on my phone, it buzzed immediately, notifications stacking, 3 texts from Marcus, I was right, 2 from Lena, 1 from Dr. Patel's office, confirming my appointment to sign the county assistant's paperwork. I ignored Marcus and Lena, opened my banking app. Refreshed. The deposit had hit $1,847.32, my bi-weekly paycheck after taxes, and the retirement contribution I couldn't afford to stop because I'd read too many articles about compound interest. I paid my car insurance, $127, my phone bill, $65, transferred $200 to savings, optimism as practice, and looked at what remained. $1,400 for 2 weeks of living. Subtract groceries, gas, the electric bill that would auto-draft next week. I'd have about $900 left. Still not enough for the prescription at full cost. Still not nothing. I called the county assistant's office at 8 when they opened. Waited on hold for 26 minutes, listening to a recording about how important my call was. Finally, a human. I submitted an application for the sliding scale medication program, I said. I'm wondering about the timeline. Typing sounds. Name and date of birth? I gave them. More typing. Application received yesterday, currently in initial review. We'll contact you within 15 business days to schedule an eligibility interview. 15 business days to schedule the interview? Then, how long until I know if I'm approved? The interview takes about an hour. Approval decisions are typically made within 7 to 10 business days after that. I did the math. 15 days to schedule, then the interview, then 7 to 10 more days. A month, minimum, possibly 5 weeks. My samples would run out in 18 days. Is there any way to expedite? This is for anxiety medication, and Unfortunately, we process applications in the order received. You can check your status online using the reference number we emailed you. I thanked her, hung up, opened my email, found the reference number, clicked the link. Application status, pending initial review. Estimated review date, 05/28/2025. 3 weeks from now, just to look at my paperwork. Okay. Plan B. I called the manufacturer assistance program, waited through a different hold message, got a different human who told me my application was processing, could take up to 8 weeks. They'd contact me by mail. No way to check status online. No way to expedite. Just wait and hope. Plan C. I opened my laptop, pulled up job search sites, filtered for full benefits and immediate start and copy editor within 20 miles. Found 3 listings. One was a pharmaceutical company that needed medical writers. Decent pay, excellent benefits, start date in 6 weeks. I bookmarked it. The second was a university press, lower pay than I made now, but state employee benefits. The third was a tech startup that wanted someone to polish our brand voice. No listed salary, red flag, but I bookmarked it anyway. I spent 2 hours updating my resume, writing cover letters, customizing each one, sent all 3 applications by 11, felt the small accomplishment of action, even if it led nowhere. At least I was moving. Lena called at noon. I let it ring twice before answering. "You're live," she said. "Why wouldn't I be?" "Because you sent me a cryptic text about money and then went radio silent for 2 days. I've been figuring things out. Have you figured them out?" "Working on it." I stood up, stretched, walked to my kitchen. The sample boxes were visible through the cabinet glass, white and official. 18 days worth. I opened the cabinet, counted them again like the number would change. It didn't. "What's really going on?" Lena asked, her voice shifting from annoyed to concerned, which was worse. I sat down at my table, looked at the county assistance form with Dr. Patel's signature in blue ink, the job application still open on my laptop, the budget spreadsheet with its color-coded columns. "My insurance lapsed," I said. "In January. I've been managing, but it's gotten complicated." Silence on her end. Then, "Why didn't you tell me?" "Because I knew you'd have opinions." "Of course I have opinions. You need insurance. What about your medication?" "I'm handling it." "How?" I explained. The samples, the assistance programs, the timeline that didn't quite line up, the applications I just sent out. I kept my voice steady, factual, like I was describing someone else's situation. She listened without interrupting, which was new for Lena. Probably meant she was trying very hard not to say what she was, thinking. "Okay," she said finally. "Here's what we're going to do. I'm loaning you $500. That'll cover 1 prescription and give you breathing room while the assistance comes through." "I don't need—" "Yes, you do. And before you go into your whole thing about independence, this isn't about you being helpless. This is about having a sister who has $500 and doesn't want you to have a panic attack because you're rationing medication." "I'm not rationing. Not yet. But you will if the timeline doesn't work out, and we both know it." She paused. "This is what family does. Let me help." The offer sat between us, heavy with intention. I wanted to say no. Wanted to prove I could do it myself, that I didn't need rescuing, that I was capable of solving my own problems. But I also knew the math, knew the gaps in my timeline, knew that pride was expensive and I couldn't afford it. "I'll pay you back," I said. "I know you will. I'm Venmoing you right now." My phone buzzed. $500 from Lena Winters. The memo said, "For my brilliant sister who's too stubborn to ask for help." "Thank you," I said and meant it and hated meaning it and was grateful anyway. "You're welcome. Now tell me about Marcus." "What about him?" "You know what? What happened?" I told her. The prescription conversation, the Thai food, the realization that I'd built my stability on borrowed infrastructure, the space I'd asked for, the uncertainty I'd admitted to. Lena listened, and I could hear her biting back her usual commentary, the told you so's and I knew it's that she was entitled to but didn't deploy. "How do you feel about it?" she asked instead. Scared, relieved, sad, all of it at once. "That sounds about right." She paused. For what it's worth, I think you're doing the right thing. Not because Marcus is terrible, he's not, but because you can't build a relationship from a deficit. You have to come to it whole, or at least moving toward whole. When did you get so wise? Therapy. Highly recommend. We talked for another 20 minutes about her work, about Mom's upcoming birthday, about the mundane architecture of staying connected. After we hung up, I transferred $400 of her $500 to my savings, left $100 in checking for groceries and gas. The buffer felt like breathing room. Borrowed breathing room, but still. Dr. Patel's office called in the afternoon. The county assistance coordinator had reviewed my application and needed one additional form, proof of residency dated within the last 30 days. I could bring a utility bill. I found my electric bill from April, made a copy, drove it over. The receptionist took it, stamped it, received, told me I should hear back within 2 weeks. Maybe 3. Driving home, I passed Marcus's apartment complex. His truck was in the lot. I thought about stopping, about trying to explain better what I'd meant last night, about apologizing for the parts that had come out wrong. Instead, I kept driving. Some conversations needed distance before they could happen right. At home, I opened my laptop, checked my email. One of the job applications had already auto-responded. Thank you for your interest. Due to the high volume of applications, only selected candidates will be contacted. The universal rejection delivered before a human even saw my resume. The other 2 were silent. I pulled up my banking app again, looked at the numbers. With Lena's loan, I had enough to cover 2 prescriptions at full cost if the assistance didn't come through. 2 months of breathing room, not a solution, but a bridge. That would have to be enough. Marcus texted around dinner time. Can I come over? I want to talk. I stared at the message, typed and deleted 3 responses, finally settled on, not tonight. I need a few more days. He replied immediately, okay, I'm here when you're ready. I appreciated that he didn't push, didn't demand immediate resolution. We were both learning, I thought, how to be people who needed things and didn't know how to ask. Or how to ask and accept the answer, even when it wasn't what we wanted. I made dinner, pasta with butter and the last of the Parmesan, a salad from vegetables that needed using. Ate at my table while reading through the County Assistance Program handbook I downloaded. 43 pages of policies and procedures, income guidelines and coverage details. On page 17, I found a section about expedited review for acute mental health needs. Required documentation. Letter from physician confirming immediate medical necessity. I emailed Dr. Patel's office. Is there any way to get a letter for expedited review of the county assistance? I'm worried about the timeline. She responded within an hour. I'll write it first thing Monday. Come by Tuesday to pick it up. Small victories. I was collecting them like receipts. Proof that I was trying. Evidence that action mattered even when outcomes were uncertain. Saturday morning, I drove to the library. Used their computers to apply for 6 more jobs. Printed 20 copies of my updated resume. Spent 3 hours in the career section reading about negotiation strategies and benefit packages. A librarian noticed me taking notes and brought over a book, Your Money or Your Life, something about financial independence and intentional living. I checked it out, brought it home, read the first 3 chapters while eating lunch. The book talked about transforming your relationship with money, about calculating your real hourly wage after accounting for work-related expenses and time. I did the math. My $32,000 salary, minus taxes, minus gas, minus the professional clothes I had to maintain, divided by the actual hours I worked, including the email checking at night and the weekend manuscript reviews. My real hourly wage, $11.47, less than the local minimum wage. I sat with that number for a while. Sunday, I cleaned my apartment. Not the quick surface. Clean, but the deep kind. Baseboards and ceiling fans inside the fridge, organizing cabinets. Found expired food I'd been ignoring, old mail I'd shoved in drawers, the physical evidence of barely managing. I threw away 2 bags of trash, recycled a box of papers, made space. The apartment looked bigger after, or maybe I just felt clearer. Marcus texted, "How are you doing?" I replied, "Better." "How are you?" "Missing you, but respecting your space. I appreciate that." "Can we talk this week?" "Yeah, let's plan on Thursday." "It's a date." Not a date, I thought, but didn't correct him. We'd figure out what it was when we got there. Monday morning, Dr. Patel's office called. The letter was ready. I picked it up during lunch. 2 pages, official letterhead, words like acute anxiety disorder and medically necessary, and immediate coverage recommended. I drove straight to the county office, submitted it with my application, asked the front desk clerk if this changed the timeline. She read it, nodded slowly. This should move you to priority review. Give us a week. 7 days. I could do 7 days. I had 18 days of samples, 7 days of processing, then hopefully approval. The math was starting to math, barely, tentatively. Tuesday morning, I woke up to an email from the university press. Subject line, interview request. They wanted to meet Wednesday at 10. I replied, yes, immediately, spent Tuesday night researching the press, preparing answers about my editorial philosophy and experience with academic writing, printed extra resumes, ironed my interview shirt, the one I saved for things that mattered. Wednesday, I dressed carefully, professional but not corporate, capable but not intimidating. Drove to campus, found parking, walked into the press offices 10 minutes early. The interview lasted an hour. They asked good questions. I gave good answers. The benefits package included full medical from day one, dental vision 403B match. The salary was $34,500, $12,500 more than I made now. Not life-changing, but movement. We're interviewing through Friday, the hiring manager said. We'll make a decision by next week. I thanked her, shook hands, walked back to my car, feeling something that wasn't quite hope, but was adjacent to it. Possibility, maybe. The sense that things could shift. Thursday, I met Marcus for coffee at the place between our apartments. Neutral ground, his suggestion echoing mine from before. He was already there when I arrived. 2 coffees on the table, mine the way I liked it, oat milk and 1 sugar. He'd remembered. That had always been his strength, the small attentions. Thanks for meeting me, he said as I sat down. Of course. I've been thinking a lot about what you said, about dependence and infrastructure and all of it. He wrapped his hands around his coffee cup, looked down. And I think you're right. I think I made helping you part of my identity because I didn't know what else I was contributing. I didn't. Interrupt, let him work through it. My work's been shit for months, and I felt like shit about it, and paying for your prescriptions made me feel useful. Like I was doing something that mattered, you know? And then, when I couldn't anymore, it felt like I was failing you and failing myself. You weren't failing me. But I felt like I was. And that's the problem, right? I tied my worth to whether I could take care of you, and that's not fair to either of us. No, it's not. He looked up. So, where does that leave us? I don't know yet, I said, honest as I could be. I care about you, but I need to prove to myself that I can handle my own life before I can figure out how you fit into it. And that's not about you being good enough. You are. It's about me being whole enough. How long do you think that'll take? I don't know. Months, maybe. I'm applying for new jobs, working on the insurance thing, trying to build systems that don't require someone else to maintain them. Can I wait? The question hung between us, heavy and honest. I wanted to say yes, wanted to promise that we'd find our way back, but I also knew that promises made from uncertainty were just another kind of debt. I don't know if waiting is the right thing, I said. I think maybe we both need to just focus on ourselves for a while and see where we are after. So this is a breakup. This is me saying I can't be in a relationship right now. Not this relationship, not any relationship. I have to learn how to be okay alone first. He nodded slowly, eyes wet but not crying. I get it. I don't like it, but I get it. I'm sorry. Don't be. You're right, about all of it. He finished his coffee, stood up. For what it's worth, I think you're going to be fine. Better than fine. You too. We hugged at the door, brief, sincere, goodbye without finality. He walked to his car, I walked to mine. We drove in different directions. I cried for 3 minutes in the parking lot, then wiped my face and drove to work. Some endings were sad and right at the same time. Friday, the county office called. Your application's been approved. You can start the sliding scale program immediately. Based on your income, your copay for a month's supply is $50. $50. I could afford $50. When can I start? Pick up your approval letter today. Take it to any participating pharmacy. List is on our website. I left work at lunch, drove to the county office, got my letter. Drove to the pharmacy, handed them the letter and my prescription. The technician typed, clicked, nodded. "This'll be $50. Give us 20 minutes. I waited in my car, watching the clock. 20 minutes exactly, I went back in. They handed me the white bag with the stapled receipt, my name on the label, my insurance code from the county program. My medication. $50. Mine. In my car, I opened the bag, looked at the bottle. Standard prescription label, 30 days worth. Take one daily. No refills until next month. I opened it, looked at the pills, small, white, boring. They looked the same as always, but they felt different. Earned, not borrowed. My solution to my problem. I texted Lena. Got my prescription figured out. Can start paying you back next month. She replied immediately, proud of you, no rush on the money. Then I texted Dr. Patel's office. County program approved, thank you for everything. The medical assistant replied, that's wonderful news. Dr. Patel will be so happy to hear it. I sat in the pharmacy parking lot for a few more minutes, just breathing. The panic that had been simmering for weeks had quieted. Not gone. It never really went away. That was the nature of anxiety, but manageable, contained. I'd done this. Not perfectly, not easily, but I'd done it. The university press called Monday. We'd like to offer you the position. I accepted on the spot. Start date in 3 weeks, enough time to give notice at the small press, enough time to process the change. The benefits coordinator emailed me enrollment forms. Medical, dental, vision, all active from day one. I filled them out that night, selected the mid-tier plan with the reasonable copays and deductible, sent them back. Official. I gave my notice Tuesday. Diane was sad but understanding. You've been underpaid for years, she said. I'm glad you're getting what you're worth. My last day was June 13th. The staff threw me a small party, cake from the grocery store, a card everyone signed, a gift certificate to the bookstore I'd mentioned loving. I hugged people I'd worked with for 3 years, promised to stay in touch, meant it. Walked out at 5 with a box of my desk things and a sense of closing one chapter before the next began. The university press was different. Bigger, more structured, better resourced. My desk had a window that looked out at the quad. My salary appeared in my bank account every 2 weeks, slightly larger, reliably. The insurance was good, $15 copays for prescriptions, $30 for specialist visits. I scheduled a follow-up with Dr. Patel, paid the copay without thinking about it, updated her on everything. You look better, she said, taking my blood pressure. Less stressed. I feel better, more stable. The medication's working? The medication's working. And also I fixed the structural problems that were making everything harder. She smiled. That's the real medicine. I saw Marcus once, accidentally at the grocery store in July. He had someone with him. Not a date, I thought, just a friend. And we waved from across the produce section. Friendly, distant, fine. We'd texted a few times, casual check-ins, no pressure. We were learning how to be people who used to date, and now we're just people. It was awkward and okay. Lena visited in August. I'd paid her back in 3 installments, $200, $200, $100, and she'd accepted each payment without comment, without conditions. We cooked dinner together, sat on my couch, watching bad television, talked about nothing important. Normal sister things. You seem different, she said during a commercial break. Different how? More solid, like you're standing on your own foundation instead of someone else's. I am. I pulled my knees up, settled into the couch cushions. It's weird. Everything's basically the same. Same apartment, same medication, similar job. But it feels completely different because I built it myself. That's because you're not borrowing your life anymore. I guess not. We went back to the show, let the conversation rest. Later, after she left, I stood at my kitchen window looking out at the parking lot. The same view I'd had for years, but from a different perspective. My car was there, paid off last year, mine. My apartment, small but affordable, mine. My prescription bottle in the cabinet, county program copay, mine. Small life, small victories, math that finally added up. I'd started keeping a journal, Dr. Patel's suggestion, something about tracking patterns and processing emotions. That night I wrote, 3 months since Marcus said he couldn't help with prescriptions anymore. 3 months since I nodded and told him I understood. Feels like longer, feels like a different life. What I learned, You can't borrow your way into stability. You can accept help, but you can't make help your foundation. The difference is subtle but essential. What I'm still learning: how to ask for what I need without feeling like I'm failing, how to accept support without becoming dependent, how to build a life that's mine, really mine, not constructed from other people's generosity. Progress: new job, good insurance, medication secured, relationship with Marcus ended but not destroyed. Debt to Lena repaid, savings account actually growing. Panic attacks down to 1 per month, manageable when they happen. Goals: keep building. Keep asking for help when I need it, but not before. Keep proving to myself that I can do hard things. I closed the journal, set it on my nightstand next to the book from the library that I'd renewed twice and finally finished. The prescription bottle was there too, orange plastic catching lamplight. I opened it, took my evening dose with water from the glass I'd filled earlier. Routine, boring, mine. Saturday morning, I woke up to light through my blinds and no alarm. Made coffee with the good beans I could afford now, sat at my kitchen table with my laptop. Opened the draft email I'd been writing to myself for months, read the list of things I would do if I wasn't afraid. Half were checked off. The other half were in progress. I added one more line. Trust that I'm enough alone and then build from there. Saved it. Closed my laptop. Looked around my small apartment with its mismatched furniture and well-organized cabinets and the light falling across everything just right. Not perfect, not finished, but mine. Built from my own decisions, my own work, my own math that finally, tentatively, beautifully added up. The prescription slip from months ago was still in my journal. Bookmark from the day everything shifted. I pulled it out, looked at it, folded, worn, dated from March. Dr. Patel's signature at the bottom, my name at the top. Evidence of when I couldn't afford to exist and didn't know how to ask for help and waited for someone else to solve it. I didn't throw it away. Kept it instead, reminder of the distance traveled. Not from that moment to this one, but from borrowed to built, from dependent to determined, from nodding and saying I understand, to understanding, really understanding, that survival was mine to figure out. Hard work, nobody's rescue, just me and the long arc toward okay. I made breakfast, eggs, toast, the last of the good jam. Ate slowly, no rush, nowhere to be. My phone stayed silent. No text from Marcus, none expected. No crisis, no emergency, no math that didn't work. Just Saturday morning, quiet and mine, light through the window, coffee still warm, the small and essential architecture of a life I'd built myself. Not perfect, not easy, but solid, weight-bearing, real. I could work with that.